I'm Alex and this is Justin, and we've taken time out of our working lives in Sydney to travel to some of Australia's most remote and beautiful places in our modified four-wheel drive, and we're filming our adventure along the way.
This week in our Big Lap Essentials guide, we're going to run through our tools, all our fluids and any spare parts we carry, what we think you should carry, what we think you shouldn't carry, and that's our basic guide to it. Alright, so starting at the basics of tools, we carry what everybody carries pretty much. Your zip ties, pretty damn essential, ratchet straps, some duct tape. If you can't fix it with that, it ain't worth fixing some days. We then carry our next most important thing, and I reckon everybody who owns a four-wheel drive or a car should really own and carry these. It's a Barco Socket Set. It's got 1/2 inch sockets, it's got 1/2 inch 6-point sockets, and it's got all the 1/4 inch sockets and accessories that we need. It's then also got in this lid ring end and open end spanners and these weird spanners. I don't know what you're meant to do with them. Please comment if you know what you're meant to do with them, because I've been confused for a couple of years. Then we move on to things that I carry that you might not need. I just find we use them a lot on our car and I use them a lot as we go, and they're things we picked up on the way, on the road. So we picked up this flare nut spanner set. It's awesome. We got this when we were in Ceduna because we had our slave cylinder failed on our car. So we then had to replace the slave cylinder, and it's got a flare nut on it. And if you use anything other than a flare nut spanner, you're gonna have a bad day, and that ain't ever coming off. So it's pretty essential if you have to do any work on your hard lines and whatnot to have the right tools for the right job. And yeah, they're cool. I'll keep them when we finish. Then got really basic, I forgot about it, rags. Love rags, much better on my shirt so I don't get yelled at when I rub dirt on them. And then I carry a few hand tools. These are just bygones from being a filthy plumber. So I've got multis, you can use multis to do anything. 2 pairs of shifters, small flat blade, Phillips head, big bashy flat blade that can pry things and poke things and bend things. A pair of snips, I know you cut things. Cut the bonnet scoop in with them. Pliers, a pair of Toyota pliers because they're amazing, long nose pliers. Hydraulic line crimpers, these are really handy if you're in the bush and you rip a brake line. You can crimp it off, and if you get there quickly enough and if you have brake fluid, you're going to get home. You're going to have free brakes, but you'll be able to get out of the bush and avoid having to pay to get dragged out of the bush, which nobody wants to do. And got little crimpers for my 12 volt. I did all the 12 volt myself, so they're pretty much the basic tool I use for most of it. And yeah, they'll fix anything that I've done bodily. And we've got this little funnel I bought on the road. It's amazing. It means that I only spill 50% of the oil I try to pour in the engine on the engine. It's increased it a lot. It's very good. Then got some tyre plugs just in case we get a nail in the tyre. Carry some plugs in my little box. Plug that up. Loctite. A couple of full driving tools that you don't need if you're in a van or whatever. Tyre gauge, bush saw, axe which doubles as a hammer. It's got a little hammer head. Always try and carry something that'll do multiple jobs, because weight at the end of the day is a killer in any four-wheel drive, no matter how much your GVM weighs. You always find a way to fill it up. Little multimeter just to diagnose any electrical problems. Haven't had any thankfully on this trip, so haven't really had to use that, but it's still a good piece of kit to carry. Then we go on to the cordless gear. Now if you're not going off like tough four-wheel driving, you probably don't need to carry a grinder. I carry it just in case I had to cut the CV shaft, or in case I have to cut or mangle anything in an emergency situation. Hopefully not. And then I carry a cordless drill, 2 batteries, some cut-off blades and charger. we used to drill a lot to fix various things like awnings and other crap when we had our King's gear, and it's amazing. You use it, it's got lots of drill bits. I carry some other little bits for tech screws, and that runs off our 500 watt inverter. So just a little fact for you, if you have the slow charging Makita charger, which thanks Kenny, it'll run off a 500 watt inverter, which is ideal, so you can charge it on the road, because there's no point having it if you can't charge it. It's gonna be flat when you need it. Carry a hacksaw. Use that to just do little things around the car and around the tent. Then we carry this little box of mystery. So inside it we have washers, nuts and bolts I bought when the slave cylinder actually fell out before it broke. Bunch of other spare bolts. Anytime we've worked on the car, anybody that's not a mechanic knows you always finish a job with more bolts than you started with, and you don't know where they go, so you put them in a little box, and when you find out when it falls off on the corrugations, you put it back on. That's pretty handy. Then we've got the 12 volt stuff on the other side. Yep, so all my fuses, a couple of O-rings for some things I carry. I don't know why, must be a plumbing thing, you always carry O-rings. Spare Anderson plug that I'm chucking everywhere. I carry spare valves, little valve key here just to remove valve cores, and backup tie gauge, because you always should have backups of things you rely on, and it weighs nothing. So that's amazing, and having it in this box is great, because when you store it well, you can find it. You're not rummaging through 50 bits of paper in your glove box to find a fuse, or find nuts and bolts that you know you have but you just don't know where they are, so they're all there. Then we carry electrical gear, so I just carry a bit of 15 amp cable. I've used a fair bit of this already, so there's not much left. Some other crappy cable, a solar charger in case the alternator fails, worst case scenario. Put my solar panel direct to the main battery on the car and keep the car charged and running. Then we've got fluids, so we carry brake and clutch fluid. I have to say that's essential on your big car. So one fluid I wouldn't go without now. After having the slave cylinder leaking and dropping a fair bit of fluid, I was brought into awareness that when you're remote, that's going to ruin your week, not your day, your week. So you should carry that. It's a need to carry. Oil, we carry it because we burn a bit, that's fine. Diff oil, we just carry that because we had some when we prepped the car before the trip, left over, just kicking things. WD-40 brake cleaner, just to clean up after I do an oil change. I like to clean the sump so I know it's not leaking. If it's clean when I'm finished and I find a leak on it later, I know it's leaking. If I leave it a mess and I come back and look at it, it's got oil, how do you know if you've done the right thing? So just clean up after yourself. So, oh yeah, I've got a couple of things as well. I carry Arladite just in case, and some gasket maker in case I have to pull off the sump and clean it down. I can drip up the gasket. In case I have to open up anything, I can always make a drip gasket. Not ideal, but it'll get you by. Now with all these tools, I don't remember if I said at the start, but before the trip we prepped the car. So I'm very lucky. I'm a plumber by trade, have been for 12 years. And my dad's a mechanic and I grew up working on my own cars. So whilst I'm not a mechanic, and this advice will not be from a mechanic, I have a good understanding of my vehicles, and my dad's always instilled it in me to repair it. And you need to understand it if you're going to go to these remote places and trust it. So if you don't have this knowledge, it's not worth you carrying a lot of these tools. You could just carry this socket set, that might get you out of trouble. The main thing though you could carry would be a phone, a sat phone and a EPIRB, because they're going to get you really out of trouble. And make sure you have off-road insurance, because at the end of the day you can't fix everything, and you do. It's a big country. If you're out here on your own, you might not see people for a couple of days, so you really need to understand your vehicle, understand your knowledge of your vehicle and maintenance and tools, and then work out what works for you.
Spares.
So spares, I've just been reminded by Alex. So we also carry a spare belt kit. So before we left, we did the prep, we replaced all the belts, and we carry a spare radiator top hose. On our car, the hoses looked alright. The top hose is a hot hose, they say. It's a young pressure hose, so that'll be the one that gives you issues, so we carry that. Then carry two main drive belts and a spare aircon belt. We've already shredded one aircon belt and a bearing, now shredded another one. So that's been very handy to keep aircon going for a bit, and it's just good to have. Like, if you have the knowledge to replace them, carry them. They weigh nothing, they take up no room, that's peace of mind. Then carry 2 spare fuel filters, because Australia, we've got dodgy fuel, why not carry it? And then we carry an air filter as well, just in case we go through a bog hole, somehow we get mud all over it, or your air filter gets clogged up and dusty, or your mate doesn't have one. It's just a good thing to carry, not essential, a good thing. Yeah, I think that's about it. So if there's anything that you think you've forgotten, anything you think you should carry that you're not carrying, and I don't know, any tips or tricks, leave them in the comments below. You can also hit us up on Instagram, follow us. We might do some videos on our recovery gear and some other things, but yeah, hope this helps you, and yeah.